Hello there guys, and welcome to another one of my reviews. Today, as you already noticed, we are testing the brand new Range Rover. Now this is the 5th generation Range Rover, and those of you who have watched my videos in the past know that I usually film the cars from the front. Well, this time I decided to switch it up a bit because in terms of design, the rear end of the new Range Rover has the biggest changes compared to the old model. And the front end looks more like a facelift, if you will, because it has roughly the same shape and the same design as the old model. I'm talking about slightly reshaped headlamps, a slightly smaller grille, and a different shape for the lower bumper. But overall, it seems and feels kind of the same. We still have the Range Rover lettering on the hood and everything that goes with it. But at the back of the car, you can actually see huge differences. For example, you can notice that these are now the stoplights and they look absolutely brilliant. And these are now the signal lights. So basically when you turn on your signal, a light will pop on over here and over here to the sides of the Range Rover huge lettering. And I have to say, it's a classy design overall. I'm starting to like it. Initially I didn't like it, but now that I'm seeing it in action, I'm really starting to like it. And we don't have any exhaust tips that are visible on this car because Range Rover apparently decided that's not part of the car's DNA, but it looks really well. The boot is absolutely huge. I'm going to write down the capacity. I don't have it memorized, and of course it is a split tailgate. So you have plenty of room in here. You can actually configure the car with 7 seats now, and you know, if you do that, you're going to lose some space in the boot. And over on the right side here, you have a number of controls for various features of the car. For example, you can drop the suspension if the car is fitted with an air suspension, or you can raise it depending on your needs wherever you want to load something in the car. So yeah, it looks good, and from the sides, the profile of the car is still good looking. I like the way these windows meet up with the body of the car. They look really, really nice. And of course, we have a side step over here to help you get in and out of the car. We will get in the car a bit later on. And we have 22-inch wheels on this car, which don't really seem that big because of the huge size of the new Range Rover, but they are pretty impressive taken all by themselves. Now, this car is an Autobiography version. It is fitted with a V8 engine and it has 530 horsepower. But we're going to talk about that later on. What I did want to mention is that we have an extended wheelbase on this car. So the standard Range Rover has a length of 5.05 meters, and this one has a length of 5.25 meters. So quite a big difference. Now, that said, let's hop in the car and see what changes happened in there. Now that we got out of the sun, let's talk about the interior of the new Range Rover for a while. I'm sorry about the change of scenery, but it's really hot these days around here. So just like the outside, the interior design seems like an upgrade, not a revolution compared to the old model, but everything in here feels incredibly well built and premium. The build quality is solid. Everything seems really well put together, and the materials used are, as you expect on an Autobiography Range Rover, top of the line. So in terms of build quality and materials, I would consider this car a rival for models like the Bentley Bentayga, for example, not the Audi Q7. And I think it's over the top, and I think it's better than in the BMW X7 and on par with the Mercedes-Benz GLS in terms of refinement in here. So we have leather on the roof liner, leather on the sun visors, and we have double visors too, just like you would expect in a Range Rover. We have leather on the door panels, leather on the door pockets, wood inserts over here. On the dashboard, we have the entire dashboard wrapped in leather, and we have a combination of white and black leather in here, and it looks absolutely magnificent. The seats are incredibly comfortable, and they actually have extra armrests over here for some reason, even though you also have this huge armrest over here in the middle on the center console. So yeah, there's plenty of room and everything feels as it should in a car that has a price tag of over 180,000 euros. So nothing to complain about here. In terms of design and practicality and ergonomics, well, we have the most recent infotainment system over here that looks really good and works flawlessly as far as I could tell. We have a 13.1-inch display over here with crisp graphics and very smooth animations, and you have plenty of features in here, from information about the car's dimensions, for example, which is really interesting. You have everything you need over here: the length, the height, the wheelbase, the approach angle, the departure angle, the crossover angle, and so on, to everything else you could possibly need. Things like the climate control and the function it has, that's supposed to purify the air inside the camera, to cameras, dynamics, and so on. So it works really well, but I just didn't get used to its layout overall so far. But I think it's just a matter of time until you learn the menu by heart. We also have the HVAC controls over here, really easy to use. They are also touch sensitive, so button wise things have been toned down a bit, but we still have a few buttons. Like over here on the center console we have the gear shift lever, which is really nice. All these storage spaces can open and close, and I have to admire the refrigerated console, center console, which is really useful, especially during these really hot summer days. This is the button that allows you to control the driving functions of the car, because this is still a Range Rover and it's supposed to have a number of driving modes for those off-roading days. And right behind the steering wheel we have a digital instrument cluster that also looks really good, has incredibly crisp graphics, and I cannot praise it enough. The steering wheel is done in this bicolor setup, feels really nice to the touch, and it has touch sensitive buttons over here on the left and the right side, spokes on it. So yeah, everything is as you would expect it to be, but I think even more impressive is what happens in the back. And we're gonna take a closer look at that. Right, sitting in the back of the Range Rover with the extended wheelbase is quite an experience. Should I even mention the leg and the headroom? So I have plenty of room over here because we have a wheelbase of 3.2 meters, as I already mentioned. So much room in the back. You could do a number of things in here right now. Now, let's talk about the specifics of this car. We have everything you could possibly wish for, from window shades to a number of controls over here on the left, on the armrest, on the door panel, for a number of functions, from closing the shades to turning on the light to read at night, and to climate control and adjusting the seats, because the seats in the back are adjustable. As you can see, I am rolling my seat down right now. I'm rolling it back, so I have plenty of room, and I can also move it forward or backwards. I can move the seat forwards or backwards, so there's plenty of room in here. We also have a huge center console over here that you can actually fold to turn this car into a 5-seater, but you can also get it as a 7-seater, as I already mentioned. We also have a control panel over here for various functions of the car, so you can actually adjust a number of things over here. I can adjust the seat heat or the position of my seat using these buttons over here as well. So everything you could possibly wish for. Now you can actually turn this seat, the passenger side seat in the back, into a armchair. I press the button right now and the front seat is actually going is going a long way forward, and the rear seat should actually extend. So yeah, plenty of features over here in the back. Furthermore, we have screens on for each passenger in the back, for each of the 2 passengers in the back, and these screens also allow you to control everything from multimedia to lighting and everything else in between. So yeah, quite awesome. And you also get these headphones Each passenger has headphones. They are Bluetooth connected to the car's multimedia system. So in case one of the people in the back wants to listen to some music and the other to a different music, that can be done. So I am quite blown away at what's available over here in the back. Yeah. Okay, let's tone it down, Tony. So now that we hopped behind the wheel of the new Range Rover, let's talk about the technical side of things. So as I said on the outside, even though the design looks more like an upgrade, an evolution than a revolution, this car is actually brand new underneath it all, because it rides on the new MLA Flex architecture, which stands for Modular Longitudinal Architecture, if I'm not mistaken. It's a modular platform that's going to be used on a number of models from here on out, and the new Range Rover is the first one to ride on it, and it comes with a couple of interesting upgrades over the old one. For starters, it is supposed to be lighter, and it is supposed to host electrified versions, including an all-electric Range Rover that's bound to be launched next year, and it will go on sale in 2024. So there's a lot of riding on this platform. It is using a lot of new alloys in order to keep the weight down, but also increase stiffness. And according to the British manufacturer, this car is about 50% stiffer than the old one, and it definitely shows it. Whenever you're driving it, it feels like it. It's not a stiff car, but the whole chassis, the whole body of the car feels rock solid. And according to them, we have about 3 reinforced rings in the car adjacent to the A pillars, the C pillar, and the D pillar. So all of these are meant to make the car extremely stiff, which in turn helps with off-roading and creating a more balanced car overall without increasing the weight. Now, the weight factor is a big thing to talk about because this car is really heavy. It tips the scale as the scales at 2.5 tons, but then again, this is the long wheelbase version, and it does have the biggest engine you can get, which I'm going to discuss right now. So let's talk about the engines for a bit. There is a quite satisfying range of engines you can choose from. Mild hybrid and plug-in hybrid versions are available. So all the 3-liter engines are either plug-in hybrid or mild hybrid. So you have a 3-liter petrol engine that can deliver 400 horsepower. It's a 3-liter straight-six Ingenium engine. It's a mild hybrid. I tested it on the Defender. Then you have the 3-liter diesel. It's also a straight-six Ingenium motor. It's also a mild hybrid. Then you have the plug-in hybrid. That's the P440, which has a 3-liter straight-six petrol engine under the hood with an electric motor and can deliver 440 horsepower. And then you have this, the new V8, the new 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8. Now, if that sounds familiar, it's because this is a BMW engine. It's the same N63 engine used on cars like the BMW M850, the X7 M60, and a number of other models. It delivers 530 horsepower and 750 Newton meters of torque. It's an impressive engine. I drove it on a number of cars already, on a number of BMWs, and in its most powerful shape, the S63, it is used in the X6M competition and so on, a number of cars, including the BMW M5 CS. So all of the power plants I mentioned come as standard with an 8-speed automatic gearbox. It's a ZF gearbox. We've known it for a long time. It is a brilliant gearbox. It changes gears like you wouldn't believe, reads your mind whenever it has to, and it's right up there with you. And of course, all models come with all-wheel drive. Now, this is a new all-wheel drive system that includes Terrain Response 2, the system that reads, using various sensors, reads the situation around you predicts what's going to happen and adjusts the all-wheel drive system in a way that you are always prepared. All cars come as standard with a locking rear differential. It's an electronic locking rear differential, and the transfer case right here in the middle, which can be locked using a button over here, and it will split the power 50-50 between the front and the rear axles. Now the front axle has an open diff on this one, but considering how advanced the terrain response system is, that's not going to be a problem. So the new all-wheel drive system actually works in a reverse fashion to most Haldex system, if you will. Now Haldex systems mainly will send the power to the front axle, and only when needed will shift some of the engine's power to the rear axle. That's to keep the car as efficient as possible. Well, that's also happening on this car, which basically is a rear-wheel drive car most of the time. But when the car feels like it needs more grip and on departure and at higher speeds, it will turn on the front axle as well. As a matter of fact, you have an indicator over here that shows you just how power is distributed, and it shows just how often the rear diff is locking up, and how often the power is split between the axles. It's really quite good. And now in terms of suspension, this is one of the best suspensions I've ever tested. It is definitely close to the Rolls-Royce Cullinan. It's really close. It's an air suspension that comes as standard on the Range Rover, and it also comes with new dampers. It's a dual valve system. This car also comes with a multi-link setup both up front and in the back. The rear axle now has a 5-link setup, which is the first for a Range Rover, and it is incredibly comfortable. As I said, it's really close to the Cullinan, which is like the epitome in this ultra luxury segment. It's definitely better than the BMW X7. It's better than the Mercedes Maybach GLS, which I had the pleasure of driving. It's definitely better than the Bentley Bentayga, and it is absolutely brilliant. Moreover, this car is incredibly quiet. So we have double glazed windows everywhere. That definitely helps. And I'm sure there's plenty of sound insulation on board. The car has a drag coefficient of only 0.3, which is amazing for a car of this size. But on top of all that, we also have a noise cancelling system inside the car, which uses 35 speakers to pump in certain frequencies that nullify the, frequencies coming from the vibration of the wheels, from the wind noise, and so on. And it actually works, and it is absolutely brilliant. Now, what you should also know is that all Range Rovers now come with integral steering, which means that the rear axle will also steer just like the front one, just not as much. It only has a 7.3-degree turn radius, but that helps decrease the turn radius of the car to under 11 meters, which makes it the smallest of the entire Range Rover range. And I might add that this is the biggest, the longest model in the Range Rover range, if you will. So that is mighty impressive, and it will help out around town because this is a big car. Make no mistake about it. 5.25 meters is long, and it will be tricky to get this car into parking spaces, but that integral steering system definitely helps out a lot, along with the brilliant camera system this car has, which is amazing and actually works at higher speeds. It makes parking this car a lot easier than you would imagine. Initially, you might be tempted to think that this is an impossible car to drive, especially around busy streets, on older European roads, for example. And another thing we should mention is the fact that even though it's big and it's set up to be as soft as possible and as comfortable as possible, this car is quite a good car to drive in a sportier manner. So as I mentioned, it has air suspension and those new dampers, but also an 48-volt electromechanical system of anti-roll bars that's supposed to counter the roll of the car. They can deliver up to 1400 Newton meters of torque in order to counter the massive weight of the car, which is 2.5 tons. And it actually works. The car is incredibly stable through corners, even at higher speeds. What you will notice though is the fact that the tires will reach their grip limit rather fast. So you will hear a lot of squealing, and you will make four-wheel drive skids rather easily. The car, because of the massive weight it has and the massive forces pushing it outside of a corner, will actually slide with all four of its wheels, because the tires can only have that much grip. We don't really have the best tires possible on this car. We have some Pirelli all-season ones. I'm guessing if you get some Michelin Pilot Sport 5 tires with a lot more grip, it will handle even better. So that's something you might want to do. I don't know, few people will actually take this car off-roading, no matter how impressive its specs are in that area. So this car handles like an absolute dream, even when you're driving it fast. And the power that engine, that BMW engine delivers, makes sure that even though this is a huge car, it will reach 100 kilometers an hour in 4.6 seconds, which is incredibly fast. So overall, the experience the Range Rover offers is almost second to none. I still consider the Cullinan to be a better car, but the Range Rover beats every single other rival in my book. I would have no problem whatsoever choosing this car over the much more expensive Bentley Bentayga, which to me doesn't really seem to have that appeal that Bentley was going for, because the car lacks character, simply put. It's not nearly as comfortable as it should be, and I don't think it has what it takes to compete with this car. So yeah, these are my thoughts on the new Range Rover Autobiography long wheelbase V8 model. It is a brilliant car, and I think a lot of people will be very satisfied with it. Ample space inside, a lot of luxury, and something Range Rover is banking on a lot these days: you can customize it in every way possible. There is so much you can do with it. Just go through the configurator, and the company will cater to your every need. Maybe not as much as Rolls-Royce, but it's still very configurable, and a very, I don't know, exquisite experience, if you will. That said, this has been my review of the new Range Rover. It is a brilliant car that's almost, as I said, second to none. If you guys enjoyed my review, don't forget to like, share, and of course subscribe. And until next time, don't forget to feed your passions. Ciao.